Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today the question is, should alcohol be made illegal? Now this is a question I've heard many times over the years and in many forms. And I think part of the reason this question seems to be appearing a lot is because we see the destructive potential of alcohol and we see the destructive reality of it, particularly in the mental health treatment field working with substance use disorders. We see drugs like heroin and cocaine and methamphetamine as destructive, and of course they're illegal. And you could make a very good case that alcohol is just as dangerous as those drugs and causes more destruction in a lot of ways, yet alcohol is still legal. So if we look at the use of alcohol, clearly alcohol is used responsibly by millions of Americans and irresponsibly by millions of Americans. And it has in a sense, a good track record and a poor track record. A good track record, it's been around thousands of years, and as I mentioned, it's used responsibly by millions of people. A bad track record in the sense that when bad things happen, in terms of physical health, in terms of criminal arrests, in terms of ER visits, and of course in the world of mental health, it seems like alcohol is oftentimes around. Alcohol is lurking in the background behind a lot of bad things that happen to people. So if we made it illegal, in theory, of course that wouldn't get rid of it, but it would reduce its usage and maybe fewer bad things would happen. That's the theory. Just looking at the theory initially, it does seem logical. We ban other dangerous drugs, it makes sense we should ban alcohol. The problem is that alcohol is woven into the social fabric of our country, and in fact woven into the social fabric of many countries. And you could argue woven into the fabric of what it means to be in a society. Alcohol has been around for thousands of years. Back in 1919, the 18th Amendment in the United States made alcohol use illegal. We refer to it as Prohibition. This lasted for 14 years, until 1933, and the 18th Amendment was repealed. There are different accounts in terms of whether Prohibition was successful or not. I believe probably most historians view Prohibition as a failure. Some view it as a moderate success, and some a significant success. Overall, there's no question though, Prohibition didn't sit well overall with a lot of Americans. So even though there were some aspects that were positive, there were a lot of negative aspects as well. Now, that was a different time. 1919 to 1933 was a different time. But I don't believe Prohibition would be successful now either, in current times. I don't see this as a viable strategy. A few problems with Prohibition. Again, a lot of people use alcohol responsibly, so we would be criminalizing normal and most of the time healthy behavior. Alcohol is easy to make, and it's much easier to make than other drugs that are illegal. And I think whenever you have a drug that's easy to make and you try to make it illegal, you're going to create an industry where people are going to make it. Anybody who wants to get alcohol would still be able to get it if it was illegal. Although I do believe many law-abiding citizens, by definition, would not use alcohol if it was illegal. But again, their usage likely would have been responsible anyway. So would we really minimize the irresponsible usage by making it illegal? One of the other arguments I've seen made in terms of alcohol use is, should we restrict it? And in a sense, it's already restricted a little, really not much. But this makes sense. Think about what's really dangerous to human beings, what's dangerous to our physical health continuing on in a positive way. Right? Automobiles are a major threat. And when people drive responsibly, we usually don't see too many problems. But when people drive irresponsibly or mix alcohol in, which is extremely irresponsible, we see that cars can be dangerous. So in the wrong hands, cars are dangerous. We address that issue by making certain behaviors illegal. Right? Driving without a license, driving while intoxicated, the rules of the road have to be obeyed. So we've restricted something dangerous, vehicles, in a way we believe is responsible. we don't seem to have the same commitment to restrict alcohol. And again, I think this is just because it's so woven into our society. But I do think it's reasonable to say significant restrictions could be made, and that may reduce all these bad things I mentioned that tend to happen when alcohol is around. Another question really becomes not should we make alcohol illegal, but rather should an individual not drink alcohol? Meaning this is really a personal decision. I don't think we could ever enforce an alcohol ban across the entire country, but an individual could enforce an alcohol ban for themselves. And if you look at alcohol's track record, it's good in some ways and bad in some ways. But overall, alcohol is destructive. When you drink, it's introducing something destructive into your body. And I think you have to just look at that decision on an individual basis and say it's worth it or it's not worth it. Overall, of course, my belief would be it's not worth it. And I have seen the destructive side of alcohol in terms of many of the people I've treated over the years. And I have a firm belief that not drinking makes sense. It's reasonable. I believe it's a behavior that's supported by evidence. However, many people use it responsibly, so it does have to be a personal decision. And that's what it really comes down to. It's never going to be banned, in my estimation. And it's probably never going to be restricted in any meaningful way. But the individual, as we look at alcohol, I think it has to be looked at realistically. And if there's any reason to believe that alcohol use could become out of control or be destructive, I think that has to be weighed. I certainly think avoiding alcohol is the way to go, but in terms of it being banned, I don't think it's realistic. I hope you found this topic to be interesting. Thanks for watching.